This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 45.
Wow, they're so edgy. These guys are just taking chances, and that's so cool. And I wish I could do that. And
this is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host, who is deathly scared of needles, Clay Trader.
And a funny, probably a sad story, but way back when I was getting life insurance and all that stuff, I had no idea, but part of life insurance is that they have to come and give you a physical. So this was in Kansas City. Oh, it's not a big deal. We'll just send somebody out to your apartment. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't really like that sort of stuff, but okay, a physical, it'll be something quick. So she shows up and, all right, here's a cup, go pee in it. I'm like, all right. And then, I'm going to need to take your blood. And blood and needles does not go well with me. And that was the first time, according to my wife, that she saw me. I can't remember how she described it, like a state of helplessness, because I am deathly afraid of needles. And it was something where, I guess my blood just, my face turned white, and I was just she said she never, and I made it through it and all that, but oh man, needles are not good. Back in sixth grade or something, I think they thought I had mono. So they had to take some blood, and after I got it, I think I almost threw up, and it was just a disaster. And the thing is, shots don't hurt, whatever. It's not even a bee sting, but just the thought totally freaks me out. And just, even thinking of, Ches, just, I don't know, just take over the podcast. I'm about to faint right now. Just start talking.
The funny thing is Kelly, my fiance, is actually a nurse, and she, while in nursing school, is like, let me practice, hitting a vein or something, or getting this thing or something.
And I hitting the vein, disgusting.
Yeah, if you guys can't see Clay's webcam, but he's falling over right now. He's hanging onto the desk so he doesn't pass out. But yeah, I never, I have full, complete faith in her to do it, but I never let her do that because I'm the same way. I know it only hurts for a second. I've given blood before. I've had shots, things like that. But it's just something I just do not enjoy. And I know it's not meant to be enjoyable, but blood and stuff like that, and seeing it come out of the tube, and it's just I'm the same way. It's not my thing.
We're moving on. I'm not
too many visuals for player.
The sad part is I'm partially kidding right now. I'm a little bit all right, this is getting too much. I don't like to talk about this stuff. So, anyways, our guest today. Let's talk about that a little bit. Our guest today is Explorer76. That is his alias in the chat room. His name is Mike, but Explorer76. I kind of convoluted that a little bit, but he fills us in on what that actually means. But he's got a really good story, and more of an options trader, but he's got some experience with penny stocks. He kind of all over the place, but he's kind of got a good knack for seeing through BS. I'll just leave it at that. And then he makes a pretty funny analogy that deals with plumber. You'll just have to wait and see, but he gives a funny analogy, which is meant as a compliment, but it just kind of had Ches and I laughing and thinking, all right, it looks like we might need to redesign the website a little bit. So I don't want to spoil anything. That's the whole point of the interview. So with that being said, let's hop into the interview, and hopefully I don't pass out here. Mike, welcome to the show.
hey, Clay. Hey, Chaz. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Before we get to anything else, I'm curious. So your screen name you go by is Explorer76.
Yes.
What's the meaning behind this?
Well, the meaning behind that is the guitar that I play. It's a Gibson Explorer modeled after the 1976 Gibson Explorer that came out, and I have a couple of those guitars.
Oh, man, I was hoping that you were some sort of archaeologist that was currently canoeing down the Amazon River right now, being chased by cannibals because you're on some Indiana Jones quest, but that's not exactly what the Explorer meant then.
No, it's not that clever.
We don't have a Bear Grylls in the chat room yet, Clay. It looks like we got another musician yet again, but yes, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is interesting screen name, and here I was so dull on it. I was just surface deep, he must be an explorer, but a little bit more to it. But Well, thanks again for hanging out with us. And we'll just kind of start like we do with everybody right at the beginning. So, I mean, what got you interested in the stock market? What kind of caused you to pique your interest in terms of wanting to get more hands-on? And then, what kind of pushed you over the edge in regards to, hey, you know what, I want to put some real money on the line. So just kind of start right back at the beginning.
All right. Well, it actually goes back quite a ways to when I was a kid. And I remember we were watching TV, and there was a news reel that came on, and they were talking about the stock market. And I can recall turning to my father and asking him, what's a stockbroker? What is that? And, the way fathers are, I think he was trying to just joke with me. And basically he said, something to the effect of, those guys, those are the ones that lose all the money and then jump off of buildings and kill themselves. And so I actually took that to heart and kind of that stuck with me for a long time. I stockbroker, and I didn't even know what stocks were. So I always wrestled with that question.
I gotta hop in real quick, just because you're bringing back a flashback. I had that same exact association with stockbrokers. Like, they jump out of windows, because I really didn't get involved in the stock market until like my seniorish year of college, and I have an economics minor. So through some of my economics classes, like, we'd learn about the Great Depression, and like history classes, about the Great Depression. That's what it was all about, was the brokers jumping out of windows. So like, I had the same association until I actually learned more about what the stock market was. But that's kind of creepy and funny in the same way that. But I was in college, though. You were like a young little kid, so yeah. I don't know what that says. I don't know what that says about me, but I know how you would have that association, because that's how I kind of pictured stockbroker. Oh yeah, those are the people that jump out of windows when the market crashes. So sorry to cut you off, but I could totally relate to that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the feeling I had. And then I would hear the word stock every now and again, stock cars. And I also associated stocks with, those things they used to torture people in the Middle Ages with. They'd put their head and hands in them. Yeah. Stocks. So, the word stockbroker, when I was from 10 to, 15 or something, was always an enigma. I didn't know what they were. And so by the time once I got up into high school age, I think I was 11th grade or something, we had a social studies class that went into some economics, and the teacher went over stocks, and that, obviously my eyes were open to what all that meant at that point. And I remember him asking a few of the kids in the class if they owned any stock, and I recall a couple of kids saying that, yeah, my grandmother bought me some stock in Coca-Cola or something. And I thought, wow, that's cool, and I often wondered, I haven't looked it up, to tell you the truth, but I'd love to see how much it was back in, that would be 86, how much that $100 worth of Coke stock would be worth today for those kids. It's probably pretty good amount of money, I would think.
Yeah, they're probably kicking back on one of their islands right now.
Right. One of them being the key word there. Yep.
So that was my second introduction into stocks. Now, I still didn't really do any trading or get into the stock market whatsoever until I got in. I started working for a company called EDS, which is Ross Perot's company. You might remember Ross as the independent guy who ran for president. Funny
Ross
ears.
Perot, yep. He definitely is an
classic
American
character.
Name. Yep.
Classic character.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one with the ears, right? Then there we go. Yep.
So I worked for that company, and when I started, I shared an office with a guy named Sam, and we became friends, and ultimately we ended up in an office area where it was kind of slow. There wasn't a lot going on. And it turns out that Sam and this other guy who worked there would tell me about how they were day trading. And I'm like, day trading? And now I kind of knew what they were talking about because by now I had understood what the stock market was, but they were day trading, and I was like, wow, they're so edgy. These guys are just taking chances, and that's so cool. And I wish I could do that. And but I never did. I was always too scared. And, it made me nervous thinking about, I'll just lose my money. And I even reverted back to the, oh my God, I'm going to jump out of buildings if I get into this thing. So, but he would, I kind of lived vicariously through Sam. He would come over and he'd like, dude, I made $200 today. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome. But then at the same token, he would tell me about how the other guy, and he was a Vietnamese guy, and I can't remember his first name. Sam was telling me how this other guy was taking out money on margin to get into day trading, and I thought that was the most dangerous sounding thing I've ever heard. And so I didn't really want to do the day trading, even though I kind of lived vicariously through Sam, and he would tell me about his wins, and it sounded great, it sounded cool. Well, fast forward a couple years after that, I was working within the same company, but for another group, and the boss I worked for told me that in our 401k, we had the option of moving our money into a self-directed account. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I can take control of the 401k money and do what I want with it. And he's like, yeah, you could do this, you could do that. And so I wound up moving more than half of my money into a self-directed account. Now, around this same time, too, I was jamming with this band, and the other guitar player in the band was big time in the financial world. He was like a manager of hedge fund traders or something like that. I know he worked with hedge funds, but his job was the stock market. And so I asked him about that and what I should do with it, and he gave me some pretty decent advice on different things I could do. And as it turns out, the only thing we could really trade were mutual funds within this account. So he told me, look for these no-load mutual funds so you can avoid commissions and blah, blah, blah. And he gave me a few ideas of what to look for, and I looked for a bunch of mutual funds and just bought these funds and then hung on to them. And just
what year is this, out of curiosity?
This was around 99.
Okay.
99.
Okay.
And that's what I did. That was my actual first quote unquote trading. Was buying and holding actually these mutual funds. And it was funny because a lot of them, a minimum was like $5,000. You had to buy like $5,000 to get into these things. And so I only had, maybe, I can't even remember. At any one time, I only put on like maybe 3 or 4 tops, and then the rest of just holding cash. But they did pretty well. I didn't really lose my shirt on it or anything, but I held on to it for a while. Now,
did your friend? Sorry to cut you off. Did your friend give you any fundamental things to look for in these funds, or anything very specific, or was it just look for these commission-free ones and kind of toss your money in them and kind of let them go?
He did give me some fundamentals to look for, and you know what? I wish I could remember what those were, because in preparation for this call, I was thinking of that exact. I was anticipating that exact question, and I'll be damned if I could remember what he told me. I do remember, though, I always used MarketWatch. I went on to MarketWatch.com, and I researched the mutual fund through there. So whatever fundamentals they brought up on their first page, that's all I looked at. That's the only way I found these things.
So you basically traded the headlines in a sense.
You're exactly right. But
I got a question, though. So are you saying you're literally trading mutual funds like they're stocks, like you're buying a mutual fund, and if that as a whole goes up, were you then selling, or were you more invested in these? I mean, I'm kind of
invested.
Okay. So it's not like you were buying a mutual fund and then 3 weeks later selling that mutual fund, and then nothing like that.
Correct. I would buy it. I had them on my watch list within MarketWatch.com, so I would watch them and I would see if they'd go up or down and keep an eye on them that way. But And I did actually sell off a couple that I'm like, this thing is going nowhere, and just sold it off, and then would look for another one. But I really only did that for a few more years. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah, because I I'm kind of on the edge of my seat right now because I know if this is all happening in '99, I know what's about to happen with the .com bubble. So I mean, did you trade at all during that? I mean, just tell us about that phase. I mean, were you still active, or how did kind of the bubble go for you?
Well, interesting you say that, because another guy on the team at the time was self-directing his account as well, and he kept telling me about how he was shorting the market. I mean, shorting the market?
Oh no!
Oh boy! Yeah. Oh boy!
What are you talking about? So he was telling me that he was using that exact phrase. He'd tell me, I'm shorting the market, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And looking into it a little bit, and asking him flat out, what are you talking about? He told me, he was betting against the stocks, betting against them. And I'm like, okay. And then one day there was a discussion going around. My manager, this other guy, and a couple other people who were in self-directed accounts. They were all going back and forth talking about how they were making good money on the stocks on the stocks declining, going down. I still had no idea what they were talking about, but I researched it a little bit. I figured out, okay, I see what they're doing. And then I was like, oh yeah, Trading Places. I remember that movie. They shorted the market. I understand that. So I tried to do it. I tried to get into it a little bit, and I just failed miserably. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know how they were doing it. Again, I was trying to do it like through mutual funds or whatever. So I couldn't understand how to do it. I had no concept.
It's probably a good thing that you didn't, because you would have got run over by a freight train going 1,000,000 miles per hour. So it's probably a good thing you didn't figure that out.
Oh yeah. In hindsight, I'm glad I didn't. Ultimately, all I did was hang on to what I had through the whole thing, and I didn't trade anything else. I just held on to what I had in my account and just left it there.
So you go through the .com kind of boom. Now you're hanging on to stuff. I'm sure your mutual funds. Everything's appreciating pretty much across the board. Have you taken an interest in slightly more active trading? Or, are you still just kind of parking your money in mutual funds? What's the next step?
Well, this is where the bottom drops out. Okay, the HP, the company HP, bought EDS, and so we saw the writing on the wall, because I should explain that EDS was a partner with Xerox, and so I essentially worked for Xerox.
Okay.
And so we were EDS provided all the IT support for Xerox, and HP bought EDS. Now, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that Xerox probably really doesn't want HP in their company, and so we knew the account was going away. So to make a long story short, we were all laid off. So my self-directed account was essentially frozen. I couldn't self-direct it anymore, and on top of that, I went through I got divorced. So
when it rains, it pours, kind of.
Not to go too deep into that entire account was basically wiped out. I pretty much lost all that money, and through I had to pay off this, I had to pay off that through the divorce and whatnot, and I moved, I bought a new house, so I had to purge that entire account. So that thing is gone. So, and in the email I sent you, I explained that around then I started saying, oh, I need a get rich quick scheme. I got to have a get rich quick scheme. That's where my head was at, and so that got me, looking around at what I could do, and I always sort of came back to the market. This, hey, people get rich doing stock market, so hey, why not me, right? And This is about 2013, 2014 now.
Okay, so we've jumped quite a bit in time then. Okay, gotcha.
We've jumped. There was I really skipped over a lot there, but there was a couple. Divorce was
right. No, you had an account. You had a bunch of stuff that account needed to go towards, and Yeah, so you
Had
decided
to
to
start
get back
fresh.
in.
Yep,
Yep, start
in
fresh.
gear 'em.
I had to start over.
But then I will also kind of defend you. I can see how, seeing kind of what I would imagine was probably a nice chunk of change all disappear. I can see how your mindset would be in the sense of, man, that was sure nice having those funds. I want those back. What's the quickest way I can get those funds back? And there it is right there, a get rich quick type thing. So I can see how your mentality would kind of go down that path.
Yep. So, I at this point I'm settled. I'm here at this house now with my new girlfriend. I got a new job, all that. It's all good, and I realized I could look into the stock market more seriously rather than from a point of get rich quick. However, that nagged in the back of my head a lot. And obviously that led, like everybody else, to me finding, the penny stockers and, the people that, that pimp out, hey, follow me and you'll get rich and blah, blah, blah. Well, fortunately for me, I have a pretty good radar for that stuff. I kind of knew these guys were selling a pipe dream, but I checked them out anyway. And I wanted to see, okay, what are they really trying to sell here, and what is there any truth to anything that they're saying in terms of how quick you can make some money. And what I discovered was okay, so these guys probably, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt that I think Tim Sykes, he wants to be honest. He wants to try to tell you, straight up how the stock market works, and from his perspective, from the penny stocking point of view, and there's some decent information within the context of all that, but I knew it wasn't for me. I saw that thing and I was like, there's no way I'm getting involved with that kind of stuff. There is just no way. And I also saw a couple other guys. One guy, Jason Bond, actually in particular, kind of stood out to me only because he lives basically right down the road from me. I mean, the guy so I'm thinking, oh, I could go hang out at Jason's house. We could be best buddies, and I'll learn everything from him sitting right at his table. We're neighbors practically, so I'll learn all kinds of stuff from him. But again, and not to denigrate the guy to the nth degree, but I just that whole follow me and trade just like me mentality was my radar went real high. I was like, nah, this doesn't seem right. I need to learn this thing.
Does it seem a little too good to be true? Just trade like me and you'll be rich.
It absolutely seemed too good to be true.
And how does that saying go, Ches? If it seems too good to be true, what?
It usually is.
Exactly.
It just about always is.
Oh yeah. So I was thankfully I was smart enough to realize that there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to anything in terms of trading stocks and whatever. Now I will say that there's nothing wrong with keeping the mentality that, hey, if I crack down and do good at this thing, I might be pretty successful. I might do really well. I mean, there's a guy even on the Inner Circle who not too long ago didn't he make like 16 grand on one trade? So it can happen. I mean, but you have to be smart about it.
Well, you said the right thing. If you buckle down and if you work hard, you can be successful at it. Not
right.
If I buckle down and get text alerts from somebody else, or if I buckle down and check my email once every morning and then put my buy orders in and then go golfing. That's not what you said. If you buckle down and if you learn, then yeah, things can happen. But for like you said, the people selling the follow me, trade like me, and you'll be rich. So that sounds a little too good to be true. That sounds so convenient. And then you get to drive around in Lamborghinis and stuff like that. But yeah, so good. I'm glad that's a good distinction that you definitely made. So, all right. So sounds like you researched quite a bit of people in terms of, kind of who was out there and penny stocks. Did you ever actually trade any penny stocks, or was
None.
this just pretty much all research? Okay, this was just all research then.
Yeah, I had not, one thing I could pat myself on the back for, I suppose, is I've never traded a penny stock. It's not, I just, when I saw some of the training provided by that, I was like, no, I can't see this. The math, first of all, didn't work out for me. When I would sit there and do the math on this, I'm like,
explain the math, because this is interesting.
Okay.
I'm curious. What do you mean by
if I
the
want to
math?
I want to make $1,000 on trading this penny stock. I gotta put $10,000 on this trade? I mean, come on. It it didn't seem. All right. For example, with like Cameron Foose or one of these guys, they would talk about how I made $5,000 today, this morning, in 15 minutes, and when I would retrace his trade, he's putting $25,000 on a trade.
He's putting closer to $50,000 to $100,000 just for that,
Right.
just to get to be right quick and just look at this. You can have this car with my name on the license plate too. Yeah,
Right.
You did the math and you figured it out. You are a good market education detective.
You know
That's
what?
pretty impressive.
As an engineer, I appreciate your reverse engineering skills, because that's exactly what you did. You reverse engineered that. I'm like, wait a second. So he did all that just to, that's well done. Well done.
And again, not to really slam this guy, Cameron, and because to be honest, some of his information about looking for stocks and what to look for on picking a stock to trade, that's actually good information. I mean, you can take away from some of that stuff some good information, and that's what I did with these guys. I weeded through what is BS and what are they talking about that's actually useful. And in a lot of these different guys and on the internet and on YouTube and stuff like that, you have to learn how to discern the usable information from the crap. And that's what I did. And that's how I actually ended up on let me step back a little bit. I found while doing a little bit of my research, I came across the word options, and I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. What's that all about? Started looking around for all of that, and I did find a training download that looked pretty interesting. I can't recall what the name of it, and I don't even think it's still available anymore. But it was actually really good. It was like $200, and I downloaded this thing and I watched all the videos, and I was like, this is for me. This makes sense. I can understand this. And this package talked a lot about iron condors and double calendars. And I really liked it. I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I think I can do this. And the guy who did the video used Thinkorswim platform. And after watching the whole thing, I'm like, okay, I think this is for me. So I wound up opening my Thinkorswim, but I still hadn't funded it. And I wanted to find a couple grand to be able to stick into this thing and start trading. And as it turned out, that didn't happen until the beginning of 2015. I actually got kind of a nice windfall of money that came in from an actual lawsuit that happened between EDS and HP. And as it turns out, a lot of us many of us didn't even realize we still had part of our accounts sitting over there. So I had money sitting there, and I had no idea. So
that's always a good little surprise.
Yeah. To make a long story short, I took that money and I funded my my TOS account, and not quite 25,000, but I had a pretty good chunk of money in there, and I started trading. Now I did paper trade for quite a while on TOS. And I was trying to follow that plan. I was doing iron condors and things like that. I had no idea about volatility, and that's what killed me. So
so before you even tell us how you got killed by volatility, I want to first off, make sure our listeners understand that you had done your investigating. You had kind of looked into your education for multiple years without actually even having a live account to just kind of, fly by the seam of your pants or something, just try this strategy or this strategy. You actually did your research, dug down, kind of, really found, things that you thought would, work well with you and things that didn't. You knew penny stocks didn't meet your kind of risk tolerance and you weren't willing to kind of put up that much for kind of crap companies or things like that. So I really want people to kind of take that away, that you really did not just, fund an account and go just straight in. You really kind of did your research. And then the fact that, you paper traded on the platform which you're going to be executing from is also very key. We can't even mention the amount of times I've done what we call fat finger mistakes on our platform. And that's just from lack of practice or lack of familiarity with it. So I just want to make sure people kind of take that away, because I know you're just talking like that's a normal thing, but a lot of people, that's not a normal thing. So you honestly took it the best way possible. And I also think it's kind of funny that you went from looking to scrape together a few grand to, now I almost got a $25,000 account. So, it's kind of nice to kind of have that money fall in and you can really start applying these strategies. So I'll let you continue. How did volatility kill you? This is going to be interesting for anybody who is interested in options and how they affect the pricing of them.
Yeah, let me. When I was paper trading the account, I was doing a variety of different, just testing out a variety of different things, trying to learn the platform even more than anything else. And I was just throwing on iron condors onto various ETFs, really, and just seeing what happened. And where I kind of went wrong with the paper trading was, and I know you'll understand this, they start you out with $100,000 in the paper trading account. I'm like, awesome. So I'll buy 20 lots of this or that, and see how it rides. And so I didn't do it realistically. Let's just put it that way.
And that's the best way to put it. That's what I was going to say. Well said. Absolutely
didn't do it realistically, and I didn't understand that volatility can expand or contrast violently on some of these things, and so I didn't understand why is that white curve not going up to the making money line and it keeps getting crushed. So that part of it I didn't understand. Now around this time is when I actually discovered your Options Simplified course, Clay.
Okay.
I was still looking around for more training on options, and that's when I found your Options Simplified course. And
well, I want to ask you this just because I'm curious, because it seems like you have quite the radar. I mean, did I come across first impressions as one of those that was like, "Hey, follow me and you'll be rich"? Or I mean, what was your kind of first impressions of things? Because you can speak brutally honest. I'll maybe cry a tear or two.
Please be honest, because this is interesting. Kind of seeing an outside perspective.
Flat out honest. I went right to your homepage, and you have the video right on your homepage. Watched that video, and I was immediately struck by the no BS attitude that you put across. I really liked that. Hey, just put the whole "you're going to get rich" thing out of your head. This is what trading really is. This is how, you really have to manage your accounts and blah, blah, blah. Forget the Lamborghinis and everything else. The trading is really like this sort of thing is what I took from it. And I was like, oh, okay. This guy might be onto something here. I'm not getting some overblown sales pitch.
So you didn't have the impression that you were all of a sudden watching a late night infomercial?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do you want this house? Do you want this car? Do you want this hot girlfriend? You've come to the right place. Yeah.
Okay. And I've heard it said in the other podcasts. Here's a guy in a t-shirt standing in front of a chalkboard, and to be honest, that struck me too. That it's like it's not overly flashy, and it's sort of like, okay, how when you're driving down the street and you see these plumber trucks, right? And they're super fancy and they're expensive looking, and then you see another truck of another plumber, and it's like old and, you know, kind of run down, and you sort of like, you know, that guy is not, he's not taking his customers for a ride because he's obviously not making millions of dollars. He's just going to come and fix your plumbing. The other trucks, they're glossy, you know, and so they're gonna come in with, you know, nice white clean shirts, and you're gonna feel like kind of funny, you know what I mean? So, or you're gonna feel like you're overpaying. So I had that kind of feeling on your side. It's like, it's not.
So
you know?
I don't know if this is good, but Ches, we are driving old crusty white plumbers.
we are the people who advocate don't buy new cars, things like that. You know, don't get extra little sides and sauces at restaurants. That's what we kind of push across. But honestly, I think what you're really saying there is the fact that, you know, the realistic in the trenches outlook on things, you know, isn't always a glitz and glamour. So
right.
Once again, like the market detective. Yeah, you're killing it, Mike.
Your website felt like that comfortable pair of slippers and that chair that you've worn a groove into. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
this is great.
I think we are officially, IT Nate, our producer of the show. Tomorrow morning, we are putting a white plumber's
design meeting tomorrow morning. Design meeting
ASAP. Plumber's van, and no disrespect to plumbers out there. You guys do good work, but I mean, yeah, that's just so. That's good stuff. That's funny. That's funny. But I appreciate, you know, what you're getting at. So, you know, thank you for that feedback. So I don't want to take things off course, but so you saw Options Trading Simplified. Did you actually get the course, or where did you kind of go from there?
Yep, I actually, after watching, you know, some of the videos on your site, I jumped right in and bought the course, and I watched it and pieced it together with some of the things I had already learned in that other course and other things that I've learned, you know, through other training sources such as, you know, YouTube videos and you know, just online places that talk about options and what have you, and what I learned through paper trading. And, you know, the Options Simplified course was like a glue. It kind of glued it all together. I was like, oh, okay, so I get what's going on here. And at that time, you didn't have Options Advanced out yet when I bought that course.
That's very true. Yeah.
So I just hung on to that course, and, you know, I referred back to it. I still refer back to actually the courses I have from you. You know, I go back to them, and what was that thing with stochastic again? And then, you know, I'll go in there and watch it and that's what that means. So you know, putting those two things together and then getting that money, I started to actually, you know, go ahead and put on trades. And I didn't really have a plan other than, all right, I'm going to throw these iron condors on wherever I can. I've never bought anything naked. The real reason.
Real quick clarification there for any new listeners. Naked is terminology within the options world, so he's not talking about physically being naked when he bought something.
I wasn't sitting home with nothing on.
Yeah. So that's just, I could see some people be like, what the heck is this guy talking about plumbers vans, and now he's talking about whether or not he's trading naked? That's too much information. So that's just lingo within the options world. So I thought, Ches, that was probably a good specification, don't you think?
It was a good specification, because I probably would have just let it keep going, and then there's some new listener out there who's probably going, these guys are weird. Like,
bunch
talking
of
about
creeps.
Plumbers and naked, and they're no. So it's just it's an options term. That's all.
Right. I would play vertical spreads and iron condors and double calendars. The funny thing is, I putting some of those things on, and in particular the double calendars, and I didn't understand. You know, looking for the volatility still. You know, the you want the volatility to contract. You know, on the calendars, and I put on quite a couple of losing trades, and to summarize that, I'm actually down like $3,000 right now, And I think I remember you saying in one video, Clay, that it's pretty hard to come back from being down that far to get back above neutral, and that's sort of where I am right now. But you know, the my thought process was, what's that saying? You'll never plow a field if you only turn it over in your mind. So I wanted to get in there with real money, because
well, yeah, paper can only go so far. I mean, real money, it's like there's definitely a difference between at its core excitement levels. I mean, paper money is only so exciting. Eventually people, well, let's have some true fun here, and true fun being defined as putting real money on the line.
Yeah, and if you win, you're happy. If you don't, you're going to be wise. So that was where my head was. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm getting in here and I'm doing this, and I want to put these on. So at the beginning of 2015, I didn't have a solid plan. I'm playing these options, and I'm going to kind of see what happens. And I'm down 3,000. So now I have a much better. Well, actually, what happened too is your options advanced course came out, so I bought that.
So now you're probably now you totally understand volatility, don't you?
Yeah. And gotcha. I started to actually understand volatility. The light was kind of flickering, the light. Okay, this volatility thing, I understand. I got to pay attention to it, and that light was flickering, and it came together in your options advanced course, and so now my trading plans are better, and wins by 1,000 pinpricks, I guess you could say, because I'm putting on a lot of trades with a lot less money,
Good.
And that's working out much better.
So from what I understood was you didn't really have a trade plan and you lost money. Now you have a trade plan, you have a better understanding of things, and you're not sitting here saying that you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you're getting wins. I mean, and they're starting to add up. Is that kind of is that a proper understanding of what you're saying here?
It's going in the right direction.
Okay, and you're trending upwards. Good.
Yeah, so I think, obviously it's going to take a little while to get back about, that being down, but I could also, knock on wood, I haven't lost, $2,000 on a trade. The most I've lost on a trade has been like $600. The most I've won on a trade has been like $450. So,
but with these option strategies, you're going to be winning a lot more than you're losing. Is that what you're seeing?
Yep.
And so that's what it's allowing you to now start to trend upwards, right?
Correct.
Again, Ches, it goes back to having a plan and then following the system. And I go to Ches here because he definitely trades a lot more options than what I do.
Yeah, so and I have no doubt in my mind that even just psychologically, the fact that you kind of can recognize that you didn't have a plan just can lead trades to kind of spiral out of control. And once you have a firm grasp of this is what my entry criteria is, and this is where I'm willing to enter and exit, and finding that happy medium and really kind of solidifying that plan, I think not only will just improve your trading from a monetary standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, what your purpose is and where your plan of attack is. And I think with that can kind of help build more confidence. Even on those trades that don't work as often. It's the thing about advanced options to the listeners who are unfamiliar is if you structure them in various ways, you have a higher probability of success. You might not be making $20,000 on a trade, and I'm sure Mike would tell you that if you put on a 20 lot of some of these trades, you could probably make a good amount of money, but that requires a ton of capital, and it's not realistic.
Right.
So yeah.
And when I came across Karen the Super Trader.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, I could be Karen the Super Trader. So. that's when I got the idea. Oh, okay. The more contracts I buy, the better I'm going to be. Now, the funny thing too is in my Thinkorswim, I wasn't actually approved to do straddles and strangles and stuff. I wasn't approved to do naked again, there's that word, naked options for quite a while until I realized, oh, all you do is ask them to give it to you. so I couldn't put on, I couldn't sell a put, or I couldn't sell a straddle or a strangle. So that's why I was doing defined verticals for the longest time. And so what I would do is I would mimic that Karen the Super Trader trade by trying to do these verticals with tons of contracts, and then I couldn't understand why when it moved down just a little bit, oh my God, I'm down $800 already. So and it can happen that fast, literally the next day. So
and it all goes back to a very caveman-like risk management tactic is position size.
Right.
You had big position size, but now you said it earlier, you're trading a lot, but you're trading it with small size, and that's the name of the game. Because I mean, sure, you can make a lot if it goes in your direction, but with the position size when it's big, it can really bite you, like you just said.
Oh yeah.
And a little movement, and oh wow, I'm down $800. It's that's how it goes when you have big position size. So I mean, it's all risk management. Is not rocket science at all, and you just explained perfectly. Easy way to manage it is just go small position size. So we're getting deeper into the interview here, where we need to start to wrap things up. But I'm curious, kind of, because you've been through a lot. So what are some things that you are feeling that you're doing very well for yourself? So some strengths, and then what are some things that you want to continue to improve on? Going from this point forward.
Well, as far as strengths go. There's a saying there, the quickest way to double your money is fold it in half and put it back in your pocket.
That's a pretty good one. I haven't actually heard that one before. That's good.
That is good.
So one of my strengths is I guess you could call it a weakness too, because you always say trade with confidence. Part of me is, no, I'm not putting that trade on. So I think of it as a strength that I explore these trades that I want to put on, and I'll literally sit there and stare at this trade. Am I going to do this trade? Am I going to do this trade? I use the Analyze tab, like in Thinkorswim. I look at it, I stare at it, I mull it over, and I'll not put it on if I just don't feel good about it. So I kind of take that as a strength. I recognize that I'm not comfortable with the trade. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna put on a trade for the sake of putting on a trade.
You mean you're not gonna force a trade? The F word?
I do pretty well with not forcing trades.
And that is definitely a strength, no question about it.
You will preserve so much capital being selective in your trades. It's just unbelievable. When I look back at my trading, even a year ago or 2 years ago, where I was just throwing trades on willy-nilly every flag I saw, something like that, in the worst times, in the worst places with no liquidity. And yeah, I lost so much money doing that. And in my head, I had reasoned that, it's a setup. But at the same time, like you said, you are very, very kind of conscious to, and I can see why you say it's a weakness, to kind of your feeling towards that trade. And I'm sure there's people out there going to say, well, he's never going to take a trade if he's kind of nervous about it or something. But you do take trades, and like you said, you do much better not forcing them than you ever would kind of just placing them all the time.
Right. And waiting for the setup. It's important. I don't want to just like I'll find a stock. Oh, the IV's high. Oh, awesome. Okay, so it's at 80% IV, so I can throw XYZ type of trade on it. Well, I forgot to look that there's earnings coming up or something. You know what I mean? So you can really, without looking at all the factors, and that's what I tend to do, is I try hard to look at every aspect of this particular underlining and go, okay, is this trade gonna work for me or not? And I don't use a lot of indicators. I really don't. I don't have a lot. I look at the IV, I look at a stochastic and a MACD, but honestly, I look at the chart more than anything. I draw lines all over my charts, and that's really how I start making decisions. I look at those wedges and things like that. So yeah, waiting for the setup, I guess is kind of a strength, and not just jumping in when one particular flag jumps out at me, like the IV being high. So
Yeah, it's this whole conversation has me. It's why trading is so hard, and why not just everybody can do it. Because on one side of the coin, you got to be confident. You got to be able to put on a trade. So you have to be able to put on a trade. Okay, you can't have paralysis by analysis. But on the other side of the coin, you have, well, you don't want to be too confident and force trades and put on trades when you shouldn't. So then the big question becomes, well, is this a setup, or am I trying to force a trade right now? And right there, that kind of, I don't know what the smart sounding word sounds like, but that almost contradiction of thoughts is, it's a very fine line. And that is why trading is difficult, because there's a very fine line between, am I just scared? Am I just nervous? Or am I justified in saying, hey, there's not a trade right here? So those that can walk that fine line and realize when they truly shouldn't be putting on a trade on versus, hey, I should be putting on a trade. That is, that's kind of the golden goose. I mean, would you agree with that, Ches? And Mike, is that pretty similar to what kind of you're saying is a strength and a weakness? Sounds like just that fine line.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And the words paralysis by analysis jumped out at me because I try hard not to fall into that. It's not like I look at agonize over these trades. It's not like I'm doing that. But I'll look at a setup. I'll look at the analysis, the different EMAs and things like that, and I'll try to make a decision on this. And if it looks like it's not going to go the direction I want, then that's when I say, nah, I wait for a better setup or find another setup.
You got your checklist and you stick to it, and that's kind of what you need.
Right. That's exactly right.
Now, I wanna point out something to you listeners who have made it from the beginning to this point. I want you to recognize that his entire interest in all of this had sprung about from wanting to get rich quick, and how his mindset completely flipped as he kind of investigated, researched various folks and various strategies. He completely changed his tune to, I would rather make slow and steady gains, be completely selective, and not just say, I need $1,000 tomorrow. What am I going to throw my money into? So that's just a complete flip-flop from the beginning. And I think it's really, really great to see, because some people, it takes tens of thousands of dollars and years of their trading life to essentially realize that, I should have kind of, maybe looked at this a little sooner, or kind of thought hard about it. But you kind of did it in a pretty short amount of time. I know you've been, you've known about the markets for quite some time, but, really kind of getting active now. It's been great to see. So that's
good observation, Ches. Props to you. That's a big mental mind swing that you've gone under. So, Ches, you're going to pull out the time machine here?
I am going to pull out the time machine. I'm sure Mike would have some good advice to give himself. But if you could go back in time to when maybe, I don't know if I'm going to say your mutual fund days, but when you started trading or kind of came into that sum of money.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, and you could give yourself only one piece of advice. What do you think that advice would be?
I actually would go back to the time that I was in the office with the other guy doing the day trading.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah, Sam. And if I could pick a time period to go back to, and that moment is when I wish I had studied up on it and understood what he was doing more, because knowing what even if I didn't trade, if I kind of sat with him and learned what he was doing, I think once I moved into that mutual fund days, things might have gone even better then. So it's more the typical answer: get some education. And I would have wanted to educate myself more around the time that Sam and the Vietnamese guy, I can't remember his name, I think his name was Khan. When Sam and Khan were day trading, I wish I had learned about it more then.
Kind of like a trading education support system. You would have had two guys there who were kind of doing it, with you, and you could kind of peek over their shoulder even if you weren't trading, directly yourself.
Right.
So in other words, now is the time. Don't push it down the road. Just get involved. And get involved doesn't mean put money on the line. It just means start to learn. I mean, is that kind of accurate? You just wish you would have jumped in back then?
Yeah, I wish I would have. I wish I would have kickstarted an education around trading at that time. I think what obviously the that was 1999 or so. So I'd had 15 years of time to learn about this at this point. So as it is, I started the training that I have, my more modern training started late 2014.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So if you're listening to this kind of, I don't know if I want to get started. Nobody's saying you got to go put $1 million into a trading account. I mean, just start to do some learning. Start to, like you said, get your educational system in place, and that way you're not kind of looking back and saying, "Man, I've only," So I guess just start. Don't. There's nothing to be nervous about. You don't have to put any real money. That's not what we're saying. Just start to dig a little bit deeper. So, well, Mike, we are moving into our fun questions here, and I want to give you plenty of time to kind of plug your group or whatever. But we'll do a quick couple basic questions, and then we'll talk to you about your music and all that good stuff. So, what is your favorite movie?
I've got a few, probably like my favorite sci-fi would be Aliens 3. My favorite comedy would be probably Tommy Boy. But really,
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers hug. Yeah, there we go, Ches. I'm back on track now.
There we go. The streak starts at 1. Okay, we'll see the next guest how fast that's broken. But go ahead.
How can you not sing "Fat Guy in a Little Coat"?
Yeah. Oh man. Yep. That's a good movie.
But I think one of my all-time, all-around favorite movies is Forrest Gump.
You can't go wrong with Forrest Gump.
It's got everything.
It does.
It's got war.
It's got football.
Action,
it's got romance. It's got comedy. It's got fishing.
Yeah. So when that comes on TV, I'll still stop and watch that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Very cool. Very cool. So now, as far as kind of the food realm, what would you say is your favorite meal and dessert?
Oh, that's easy. Linguine with white clam sauce.
Bam.
I'm a fan of linguine, but I'm allergic to shellfish, so I avoid the clams. But good choice.
Yeah. Mom still makes that for me on my every birthday. So I get a nice big plate of linguine with clam sauce, and whatever dessert she wants to throw my way that day. It's usually a birthday cake, or I'll brownies or something like that. So
very, very nice. So I think this is a hobby of yours, but or is this your career? But I know you're big into music, so talk a little bit about that. And if you want Ches to link some things in the show notes, mention that, and we'll definitely make sure to try to plug you as much as possible, because we appreciate you helping us out. So we definitely want to help you out. So yeah, tell us about your music and plug away. I mean, if you want to turn this into an infomercial for yourself, I'm good with that. So tell us about it.
Well, real quickly, I'm a child of the 80s. So, I mean, I'm 47 years old. Right all through high school, I was a drummer. Right after high school, I played drums, but then I switched to guitar, and I really wanted to pursue, playing in bands or whatever as a career. So I made some poor decisions of dropping out of college and trying to tour. And there's some stories there, but you don't have the time. And so I've been involved in playing in bands and music for pretty much my whole life. And so the most recent band that I mentioned on the chat room was one that I was just in. We just recorded a small album like 2 years ago. The band's actually not doing anything anymore, but that was the last band I was in, and we had a lot of fun with that. We opened for.
Do you want to give the title of this band, or
the name of the band is Intox.
The name of the band, not the title of the band. I'm an idiot. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. The name of the band is Intox, Intox, and you can generally find a lot of different YouTubes on the band taken from fans, but you have to kind of search around the Rochester, New York area, because there's actually other bands with that same name. So we're not the death metal band from Argentina or whatever that other band is that shows up all the time. But
now you did mention though in the chat room you had a link to download some of your music. Is that correct?
Yeah. On the Reverb Nation.
Okay.
On Reverb.
Well, what we'll have you do is if you email that to Ches, he will put that in the show notes. So if you're interested in hearing some of these songs, that way you don't have to worry about ending up with some death metal band from Argentina, just go to the show notes, at claytrader.com, and we'll put a direct link right to your music, so it goes right to that band, and that way there's not any confusion out there. So I think that would be the easiest way. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, that would be fine. Yep.
Now, are you going to make some money from this?
Oh no.
Oh man, we're try to get.
That's so that's back, like I said, back in the late 90s is when I slapped myself in the forehead and said, oh my God, Mom and Dad were right, I'm never gonna do anything with this, so I should have stayed in college. But
it's better to realize later rather than never. So that's I think that's the best way to look at it. So for our final question here, 3 words, what would those 3 words be that you would associate and describe to with a successful trader?
Well, what I'm going to do is give you 3 words. That's actually a 3-word phrase, but each individual word has a good meaning too.
All right.
And that would
changing it up. I'm down with that.
That would be positive mental attitude. And positive being having the confidence to stay mechanical with your trades, and then mental being getting the knowledge and education you need to do this correctly. And then attitude would be controlling your emotions, not getting too angry, not getting, frustrated, but, maintaining a positive mental attitude about your trading.
That's well put, Ches. I mean, nicely summarized.
Very nicely summarized. And I had a friend in college, actually, who was a huge proponent of, he always say PMA, and that's, stands for, of course, positive mental attitude. And he's gone on to just ridiculous success and wealth. But I think it's something that I've actually been trying to kind of get behind as well as of lately, because you really kind of need it, especially in this kind of job. So, couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah,
and I guess with that, Mike, thank you again for a little context here. It's actually now 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. So, Mike's taking time out of his day to do this and help us record this. So thank you very much, Mike, and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, no problem. And I will see you guys in the inner circle.
For sure. We will see you in the chat room. Well, for all you listeners out there, a few things I'd like for you to do. First, if you're listening to this at claytrader.com, actually, first, go check out that link, listen to some of Mike's music, and then second, click that share button, leave us a comment below, and, we like the feedback. It helps us out. If you're listening to this on iTunes, leave us a rating, and, things like that go a long way, and this little things like that do support us, do help us out, and, it lets us know that, for myself, doing this at 8:00 Eastern time on a weeknight, is worth it. So little things like that, like I said, do really go a long way. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you back for the next episode.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.